Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Southerner's Northern Garden. So this video was supposed to be about grass seed, and the internet gods have cursed me, as I've mentioned several times on this channel, and I've been sent the wrong variety of grass seed. So I ordered it in January. It's been in a package in the garage since January. I broke it out to start my grass seed video this evening and get the seed down and started, and it was the wrong variety. And maybe you're thinking, Matthew, it's just grass seed, put it down. Or maybe you're thinking, Matthew, just run to Lowe's and buy more grass seed. That's not gonna happen. So as I've mentioned, before I was that much into ornamental gardening, I was very much into lawn and lawn care and lawn renovation and variety types. Well, for those of you unfamiliar with grass seed, you should be selecting grass seed kind of like you do any other seed that you're growing, tomatoes, peppers, because the truth is the innovations recently in grass seed have allowed grass to become more resistant to disease, more tolerant of traffic, and most importantly, more tolerant of drought and water requirements. And so when I opened up the variety of grass seed, I was really kind of aggravated because one, about 25% of the orders I purchase online these days, plant related, come either the wrong type or something's missing, or just in general something's wrong with the order. So I've emailed the company. Hopefully they'll send me out the correct grass seed. I can give this away to my neighbor or a family member or a friend. But that video is going to have to wait. I'm hoping it doesn't take too long because I would like to get it down this weekend since we were a bit delayed because of the rain. And so grass seed video coming soon. And if you're not into grass seed, while you wait for that video, take a look at the NTEP trials. NTEP, I think is how I say it anyway. They do trials every so many years on varieties of grass seed in several regions throughout the country. So you can find specific varieties of grass seed that work well in your state or your region. And so I had selected specific varieties of grass seed that worked well for me. And the blend that arrived, some of them would probably have been fine, but it's not what I selected, and I really want the grass varieties that I selected in the blend. So we're gonna wait for that. And so instead today, I'm gonna show you some progress in the garden, maybe a mini garden tour just to show you how things are looking and waking up, because things are certainly starting to take off. And so let's just walk around and get started, shall we? So I did this past weekend come around and mulch these beds, kind of pull some weeds to the extent I could, trim these boxwoods. This is 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, and this is like its prettiest part of the year almost. It comes out of the ground and has almost these black stems and these very beautiful blue flowers that you don't see on many perennials at all. And so I love it in the spring. I'm not a big fan of it in the summer because it's just a green texture that kind of gets pretty bad looking by the end of summer. And so I'm not sure that you can cut this one back and get blooms again. I've never tried it, and I don't think that's the type of perennial this is, but it is very beautiful in the spring and provides some early spring interest, especially next to the Sunjoy Pillar barberry. The roses are leafing out really well. I still have not had the dogwood that I planted leafed out yet, but it is getting buds on it. As you can see here, these buds, so we should have some beautiful blooms in the next couple months. The geums are blooming. This is my first year seeing these blooms. This is Tempo Orange. As you know, I showed you in my perennial buying guide kind of that I posted a couple videos ago. I'm getting some in called Pretty Coats Peach. But these are Tempo Orange, and they just produce a lot of blooms early in the spring. GMs aren't incredibly popular, but they're kind of making a comeback with breeding and some different color availability. And I think they're kind of just a lovely spring bloom, especially this early when nothing else is really performing. Interestingly enough, this Back to the Fuchsia Salvia is starting to put blooms on it. And I'm going to take you over. I'm going to be pulling my dahlias out of the garage probably in the next week or so too. We'll see how that goes. I should probably pull them out before I plant my tomatoes, because if I pull them out and they've desiccated really bad and don't look very good, I'll keep my tomatoes planted up here in the vegetable garden. You know, I've mentioned moving those to the back so I can focus more attention on the dahlias, and hopefully they do better this year. But If they look really bad, I'm not going to give up that space for my tomatoes. So that's a project I got to get on in the next week. I'll make a video about it, but I'm not sure how they're going to look because I've not looked at them since I put them in the garage in November. So I'm not the best dahlia dad, just so you know. I've still not got any of these plants in the ground just because we had a cold snap. So last night I think may have been our last frost. I sure hope so anyway. But this peony that I purchased is about ready to burst in some locations. And so I really want to get this one in the ground this weekend. Another thing I'm waiting on is my perennials. My first shipment of perennials were supposed to arrive this week, and I've not received a shipment notification for them yet, and it's Wednesday. So I'm kind of concerned that something's going on there and they'll be a little late. They're probably just really behind this time of year, and so maybe they'll be shipped out tomorrow and arrive Friday. It's supposed to rain a lot this weekend, so I may be out here planting stuff in the rain just to get stuff in the ground because some of those are bare roots. This season's just not starting out ideal, I guess you could say. But I did finish mulching this bed here so you can see kind of what it's going to look like. I had a lot of people comment on where to place the boxwood, and so I think I'm going to leave it right here, kind of in the center of this bed. And you'll be able to see it coming out of the shed from this angle here, from all angles really. And I'm going to interplant it, I believe, with that 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 white that I ordered, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 𝗦𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗲. It's just a white 𝗦𝗂𝗶𝗲 that's really beautiful and luxurious, might I say. But in case you didn't know, this is a very much white garden. So we have evergreens and white plants, except for those roses that I have planted back here. So we got the wee white hydrangeas that I planted last fall. All of these evergreens. We have, these are Italian ice roses, so I think they'll look really nice with all of this other white stuff. But we have a wedding cake spirea, an Illuminati arch mock orange, which should be blooming here in the next, I don't know. We'll see if we get any blooms off of it this year. Looks like we had some winter dieback on it. It does look like I also lost some of these evergreens randomly. I don't know why, because a lot of the others were fine, but if I need to move some around to accommodate those losses, that's fine, or I can stick some perennials in there. But I'm thinking about surrounding this with the 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 white, so it'll be a really beautiful, airy 𝗦𝗂𝗶𝗸𝗲 under this boxwood, and then tucking other perennials around it. There'll be the path here to the shed. I'll plant perennials next to this blueberry bed where the trash can currently is, and then along this side as well. I did get the sprinklers moved by the irrigation company here, and so we have a sprinkler here at the corner of this bed, and then another sprinkler at the corner up there that will keep the lawn nice and watered, and I can actually turn them a little bit to spray into these beds to keep them a little more watered if I need to this spring, although I am running drip to this bed, a couple lines at least up and down. A lot of the things I planted in here are drought tolerant, but the drip will primarily be for the shrubs and the perennials that are not drought tolerant, like the hibiscuses here, which I will start cutting back when they start showing signs of life in the next month or so. They're a bit behind, all hibiscuses are. They look like they're dead until later spring, earlier summer. But I'm leaving them there mostly for my own design purposes because these get quite large. And so I need an idea before I start tucking stuff too close under them that'll just get completely covered in shade later in the summer. So as we make ourselves around this way, I did spend some time weeding this afternoon since I wasn't able to get the grass seed project done. The 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 𝗦𝘂𝗯𝗀 that got eaten down really bad by rabbits, presumably, is coming back. I couldn't even see them a few weeks ago, but you can see here they're just barely peeking out. And so those all survived, which I'm really excited about. If you live in the north, 𝗟𝗂𝗲s are a really good option instead of like azaleas or maybe rhododendrons. They bloom in the spring, very similar to azaleas and rhododendrons, maybe not as early as they do, but we have kind of high pH soil here, and I have had a rhododendron that did not successfully grow, and I removed it and threw it away because it just would not. It was not thriving, and it was just dying really bad. I have tried an azalea that did not perform very well either. And so if you have higher pH soil and you live in the north with some of that bud hardiness issues some of those can have, try 𝗟𝗟𝗲𝗲s because there are a lot of beautiful reblooming varieties and a lot of varieties that are just have beautiful foliage, even if you're not interested in the blooms. And so take a look at 𝗟𝗂𝗲s definitely, because they may be a great option for you northern gardeners who like the southern type rhododendrons and azaleas. So this bed is coming along nicely. The 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 arborvitaes are actually already putting on some growth. So I saw a video last week. Laura from Garden Answer was moving what she was calling a 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 arborvitae, and it was probably like more tree form looking, which really had me concerned, because Proven Winter's website says that they'll be like a perfect ball shape, and that's what I intended here, was to have a nice hedge of them as an alternative to like a boxwood hedge that was evergreen. And hers was really tall, much taller than I'm expecting mine to get. And if that's the case, we may have to move these or pull these out in a few years, but I'm hoping they stay the nice little perfect ball that Proven Winter's website says they are. It certainly made me nervous when I saw that video. The evening light styrex or snowbell that I purchased is actually just right now. I didn't notice this until this very minute. It started leafing out the other day, but you can actually see maybe it's getting its little blooms right there. And so, or the little buds anyway. And so this should start blooming here pretty soon. And I'll make sure I show that to you in another video. But this will be super exciting. I'm really excited to see this shrub bloom this year. It's a variety of plant that people don't have very often. And so that's one of the reasons I chose it for this location. It has really nice foliage and then stay smaller in size. So it's just a very unique specimen plant for my garden that everyone doesn't have in their garden. So I think it's going to be great. The roses are looking really good that I planted on these on this moon gate. We still haven't had the chance, or I still haven't had the chance to come around and fertilize anything, because we did have about 2 weeks of rain and wetness, and then cold dipped down again. So I'm a bit behind in that regard as well. And so this may be the season of just being behind, because that seems to be what's playing out so far. The peonies are looking really, really good. I may have showed these in the last video. I can't remember. It's been a while since I picked up the camera, but I did come out and stake them the other day, and they're actually budding up as well. And so these are regular herbaceous peonies, and so they'll bloom and they'll fall over if you don't stake them more carefully. I planted the clematis down here. I may have mentioned that in a prior video too. When you don't do videos like every day, and even if you do them every day, you kind of forget what you covered. Or at least I'm that way anyway, especially in this part of the season where there's just a lot going on. I'm going to take you over here and show you my Rising Sun Red Bud, because it is phenomenal. I planted it in the ground last year in memory of a pet that I lost called Harvey. He was a little Dachshund, very near and dear to my heart, went through law school with me, and we lost him early. But this is the Rising Sun Red Bud, and it's just getting these really beautiful blooms. Bees have been all over it this early this year. It's just really pretty, and it's a smaller specimen tree, so it'll get, you know, really beautiful spring blooms, and then have beautiful foliage that transitions from yellow gold to green as it grows out, which is really interesting for a red bud. So I've mulched some other areas of the garden. There's still lots of mulching to do. One thing I did not mention in my hydrangea pruning video, if you watch that, you can delicately prune each limb of your hydrangeas, and I do that for all of my hydrangeas except the 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏s down here. 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏s have so many stems and such a large branch structure that I literally come through and take a hedge trimmer to them and kind of prune them into a ball, because I don't have the hours it would take just to prune this hedge of 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏s that I have here. So if you want to be kind of lazy about pruning hydrangeas, you can prune them that way. They may not look the best. The fact is, 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏s have such significant blooms and foliage, you can't really notice those individual branches that might have been pruned just not perfectly in the spring or in the summer when they start leafing out. So that's my tip for 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 hydrangeas. I have this 9-bark standard right here. I think this is summer wine. It should start blooming here soon too. It's got some little buds right here. But this one catches a lot of wind, and I've had issues with it bending really bad. It's new. I planted it last fall, and I actually picked it up last summer, early in the spring. actually. And it stayed in its container and suffered all summer in its container until I got it in the ground. I wanted to show you a little issue we're having with a plant over here. It's one of the oldest plants in my garden. It is a 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 spruce. And every year it leaves out really beautifully and puts on new growth. But it has clearly died on me for unknown reasons. It's done really great for, this is probably its 4th year in the garden actually. It was one of the first little things we planted. But you can see how bare it is behind here. Sometimes plants just don't make it, and you don't know the reason why. So I'm going to need to be looking for something that's kind of part shade for this location, because it gets a lot of morning sun, but no afternoon sun in this specific location. So gonna be selecting something there. I would probably want something else, additional evergreen, just to cover that little spot there. I had an evergreen in the location. I'd like to replace it with an evergreen. So, I don't know. It's kind of disappointing when you lose plants, but it happens and gives you the opportunity to find something new and different to put in those spots. I want to show you also this lemony lace elderberry. It's actually a little late. It's almost bloomed out, but it has these really beautiful, delicate white blooms. Early spring. All of this lungwort is looking really incredible. This is Raspberry Splash. I think it is a 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 variety. I'm not sure. I thought I had a tag in here. I may have showed it in a previous video, but it looks really beautiful this time of spring as well, along with the hellebores that are still blooming back there. You can see these beautiful flowers. Front garden has suffered a little bit due to my efforts and focusing my efforts on the back garden over the past year. It doesn't look bad necessarily, but I do need to come in and remulch some areas, add some plants, which I'll be selecting some of the perennials that I ordered to also get put in that location. I also probably want a larger boxwood up front for some evergreen interest in a location up there around the Japanese maple. But the 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲s that I have here that are so pretty will start blooming in probably a few more weeks. This is Checkmark Trilogy, and if you followed my channel last year, you know this is one of the most beautiful shrubs in early spring that I have in my garden. This has a proliferation of white, pink, and red blooms on it. They kind of transition in and out, but since I think we're past our last frost, I don't think we'll have any issues necessarily with the buds getting killed and it not blooming great in that location. So that's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to that in the next couple weeks. I also have this lavender twist red bud, I think is what it's called, that I picked up on sale last fall from the big box store. It was like $50, and it's also getting a proliferation of blooms on it. It survived pretty well. We've got some lower branch stems here that don't look great. They're kind of blackish, but they are putting out buds. And so instead of pruning anything off yet, I'm going to wait for it to completely leaf out. And if anything is dead, we will trim that up. I did bring in my seedlings last night because we did have a frost. They have come out this morning, and since I think we're past our last frost potentially, they have hardened off exceptionally well under the pergola, as I mentioned, as I thought they would. And so we'll be getting those planted in the coming weeks as well. I'm not terribly ready to jump on it. Some of my seedlings, this has probably been one of my worst years, and I don't know why. For seedlings, my tomatoes are extremely small. My peppers are extremely small. My geraniums look great. Half of them do anyway. And a lot of the other stuff is just really small, and I don't know why. I didn't do anything different. I use the same seed starting mix, same fertilization schedule. Some years I've just had that happen where, you don't have the best growth in your seedlings as you do in other years. My neighbor down the street was also mentioning her seedlings were exceptionally small this year too. So I don't know. Maybe it's something else going on. Who knows? But they are looking good. They're hardening off well. And so giving them a little more time outside to acclimate to outside conditions, I think will probably be better for both of us. So thank you guys for joining me. I am awaiting new grass seed and awaiting my perennials. Hopefully I can get some stuff done this weekend, get some things in the ground, get this section behind me here along the fence started, lots of things planted. It's the most exciting time of the season probably, and I'm just itching to go because after I get all of this stuff in, I can just sit and watch it do wonderful things for the rest of the year. Thanks for joining me, guys. And remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care.